Okay, today we're going to be making some low-carb Carmelitas. And I've never had Carmelitas before, but they sure look good in the recipe that I saw. So we're going to go ahead and try them today. What you're going to see is we're going to use this kind of the standard almond flour. And then we're also going to be using coconut and almonds, so it's kind of a cool, I don't know, a little bit different flavor than you're used to. This is 3/4 cup of almonds. And they're not supposed to be salted. So I'm rinsing them off because we have salted almonds. So I'm going to go ahead and just drain these and then stick them in the food processor. So those are nice and wet. They don't need to be wet, but they're wet because I wanted to get as much salt as I could. And these are almonds. These are not sliced almonds. The recipe calls for sliced almonds. Yeah, I don't have those. So I'm going to use the stuff we have. Because again, if you want pro cooking, don't watch this channel. Okay, so that's the almonds. We also need to get a cup of flaked coconut. We're going to do that. The flaked coconut here, they do have some that's more of a coconut flake. The thing that makes me crazy about this type of coconut is that I have to pay more money to get coconut that doesn't have sugar added to it. I don't care about organic. I'm not one of those organic people, but I do have to pay extra to buy the organic stuff because the only other options I can find, at least locally here, are things where you're paying. The only other options are getting sweetened, and the stupid thing is it's way cheaper to get sweetened coconut than it is to get unsweetened coconut, which I find to be incredibly offensive. So anyway, we will take this mess that I've made and dump it into the magic bullet, and then we will get that going. And hopefully we can get this thing to actually chunk up some of these almonds. That's not working. This is the part where you're watching me fail. Isn't this fun? Looks like it's chunking it up pretty good. So that's fun. So, whoa. Making a mess. Alright, so let's try this. This is the part where it gets fun. So let's do the other stuff that's basically turning into butter. Because we don't need that. Because that's already plenty fine. Any of the stuff that I can get to come out. See, this is the part I love, is it's like they make it sound in the recipe like, hey, this is going to be not a big deal. And then it's totally a big deal. Okay. The texture is pretty good. Actually, the texture of the parts that are actually busted up are pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out the bits that are giant chunks of almond or full almonds. And we're going to do those separate. The rest of this stuff is about, it sounds like this is the right texture based on what the descriptions read. So this is going to be a lot more involved than I really wanted. And maybe that's why they say sliced almonds, because then they fall better. Or maybe I just shouldn't be using a magic bullet for something like this. That's probably more the case. I probably need to get something with bigger blades. But hey, that's why this is fun, right? So, because I have made sunflower butter in this magic bullet before, so I know that it works. It's probably, I'm guessing that it's more of a problem with it binding up, because there's stuff like the coconut just basically shreds so fast that it turns into a paste, and then it blocks the rest of the almonds from coming down into the and I bet Sarah could probably tell me. She'd be like, hey Chad, why aren't you using the strainer? Because we probably have one somewhere in this house, but I don't know where anything is. I basically know where the knives are. I know where that thing that I used to bash the meat with is. I know where the oven is. And I know where this magic bullet is. That was unfortunate. I've never been good at finding things, so just ask my mom. It was always the joke in the family was, us kids mom would tell us to go do something and we wouldn't see it, and she'd walk in the room and immediately walk to right where it was. She could always find things way better than we could. Alright, so let's go ahead and just start dropping those in there. It's okay if I get a little bit extra. Alright. So if you've been keeping up with the channel, this is the first major failure, but you're going to see plenty of this stuff, because this is how I cook wrong. I cook wrong. Alright, so we're going to keep trying this. It's amazing how much better that works. Alrighty. So there's still some. We'll just eat that one. And that one. There's some bigger chunks in there, but that's fine. Alright. Alright. So that's the coconut and almond. Let's go ahead and do this. Convect 325. Convect. We got our 8x8 going. That stuff is there. Transfer to a large bowl. So we're supposed to put this in a large bowl, not a small bowl. All right. That's the one thing I don't like about these. I'm sure that they do this to get the thing to shred better or cut better or whatever. But I hate the fact that there's these ridges in here, which make it really hard to get the stuff out of there. Oh well. Alright. So that's that. Add the almond flour. We need to get 1 cup of almond flour. Not really sure why you need a cup of almond flour in addition to this, because it's plenty almondy, but I'll go ahead and do 1 cup. And again, I use the really, well, I guess maybe that would be why. This is super fine grind almond flour. I'm going to have to buy some more of this stuff. Alright. 1 cup almond flour. And then we want the sweetener. We're doing 1/2 cup of swerve. I'm using xylitol today, and you can see that I failed at opening a box with a sharp knife. Because I opened the box and the bag. I'm using xylitol because I want to try it. This is instead of swerve. Swerve, I really, really like swerve, but this was something that I thought, I keep hearing things about it, and I figured I'd try it. It's another natural ingredient. You actually get it from like birch trees, I guess, which is completely crazy, thinking that I'm going to sweeten my food with a birch tree. But anyway, so that's 1/2 cup of swerve. Swerve that isn't swerve. 2 tablespoons of coconut flour, baking soda, and salt. And the coconut flour, you're going to have to excuse me because I failed that part again. My friend Angie makes fun of me because I do this. I go in the other room because I forget something. But every once in a while you forget something, you know what I'm saying? Alright, so 2 tablespoons of coconut flour. Hi, Angie. Okay. 2 tablespoons of coconut flour, baking soda, and salt. Baking soda, half a teaspoon of baking soda, half a teaspoon of salt. Half a teaspoon. And this is baking soda, not baking powder. It's important that you know the difference. Baking soda and half a teaspoon of salt. I guess I could have just not put that salt in if I left those salted on the almonds. Okay. So all that stuff, stir in melted butter until mixture resembles coarse crumbs. Okay, so we need to melt half a cup of butter, which half a cup of butter is precisely 1 stick. So we will put a stick of butter in the microwave. Seconds sounds good. I'm sure that's not enough or something, but whatever. Or it's too much. I'll fail at that too. Okay, so we're just going to mix this crap up. Make some horrible sounds with this bowl. Jonathan, my youngest son, that was his. He hated people scraping things. The worst was the metal pots. He would literally just lose his mind whenever he would scrape a serving spoon on a metal pot. So we had to be very careful with him. He had dainty ears. Okay, so that's half a cup of melted butter. Alright, we're going to go ahead and mix that in. I think I might as well use one of these. Hey, look, it doesn't make sounds. Okay, so there's our melted butter. Mix this through. Okay, so I decided that since the caramel sauce we're going to need needs a 1/4 cup of butter, which of course is half of this, I'm going to go ahead just for, modification and fun. I'm going to go ahead and just make the executive decision that I'm going to put half a cup extra of butter because, I'm a Paula Deen fan from the perspective of her butteriness. And although there was at least one recipe we made as a family that had so much butter it was almost painful to eat. But in general, I think more butter is better. So we'll go ahead and put in another half a cup and see where we go with that. So once this is good, we're going to be putting this into this 8x8. And it says putting about half, a little bit more than half in there. Hey, this is actually a spray thing that works. Amazing. Okay, so let's do that. Let's mix in our butter, or more butter. All right. Let's see if this gives us a little bit better togetherness. I guess I could put eggs in or something if I want more binding. Let's go ahead and do that. There we go. That's glommed up a little bit better. That's what I like to see. Okay. That texture looks much more like what I would expect in terms of consistency. Okay, so let's do a little bit more than half is what it says. It also says to not worry about if it has to be super thin, because I guess it does better if it's pretty thin. So here, I'm going to do this over here. Not that you necessarily need to see all the failure this close, but anyway, we're going to mash this guy down. Ooh, I feel a big almond. I guess I should eat it. See, if you do it right, you don't get to eat the stuff that tastes really good in the middle of making it, which is much less awesome. So, fail just enough, and you can have little snacks all the way through. All right, so there we go. All across the bottom, evenly spread out. Oop, there's another almond. Awesome. All right, so do that. Pressing it in, then we usually need bake 10 minutes. We can do that. 10 minutes. Timer 1, 10 minutes. Timer 1. And we'll be back in a few minutes to check this out and see where we're at. See you then. Okay, so we just dinged. So it's time for us to check on our Carmelitas, at least the crust bit. See what that looks like. Yep, that rose pretty good. You can see it's starting to brown a little bit on the edges, just a bit though. And of course the idea here is to let it sit for a second, let it cool, harden a little bit. And so we're going to let it sit for a little bit before we come back and finish up the other items, because we've got to do the filling. So we'll come back and do that in just a second. Okay, so while this is cooling, we're going to go ahead and start in on our caramel sauce that we need to put on the Carmelitas. Obviously, should be obvious from the name that we need some caramel sauce. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a 1/4 cup of butter, which is half a stick. 1/4 cup of butter sitting in a medium saucepan over medium heat. So we're going to go to 5 out of 10, obviously math. So that's a 1/4 cup of butter. We go ahead and add in swerve, and again today I'm using the xylitol because I don't have any swerve left, and I'm going to try this out. So it says 6 tablespoons of swerve. But then it also calls for coconut sugar, and I don't have coconut sugar. I have coconut butter, I have coconut oil, I have coconut flour, I don't have coconut sugar. So I'm going to go ahead, like it says in here, you can go ahead and use the extra sweetener, but supposedly it does harden more, which is unfortunate, but we're going to have to deal with that. So we're going to do 8 tablespoons of sweetener. And obviously you're going to have a ton because it's sweetener in a caramel sauce. And hopefully that was 8. I guess we'll know soon enough because somebody will say something about it when I fail. Okay, so that's 8 tablespoons of our sweetener, and then we need to put in, I guess we wait until, yeah, that's right. Okay, so that's that. We're going to grab our whisk, which I had to wash because, you know, that's what happens when you cook stuff. We're going to use a whisk to whisk this up. Right now it's not really needing whisking much because it's a solid block of butter. But we don't want to let it sit too much and get burned, so it's important to keep it moving. Let's break that up a little bit. There we go. And obviously this xylitol has a little bit different texture. It's kind of more, this is more like a slush, or, you know, when you go out and you're making slush balls to throw people in the winter. That's more like what this texture is like right now. The swerve has a tendency to not do quite like this because the xylitol is a little bit more like, I don't know, like Dippin' Dots or something. But once it gets all fully melted down, it's fine. It's just that swerve makes it a little bit easier with the confectioner's style stuff. We're just going to keep stirring this in good until it actually starts to boil, which is going to take a little bit of time, but not too much time. And then we need to cook it. Once we get all this stuff mixed in and it's boiling, we're going to cook it for 3 to 5 minutes. So the thing is, though, you need to make sure that you keep stirring it because otherwise it will burn to the bottom and you don't ever want that. So we're going to have to keep stirring this guy during this whole process. This is the part I don't like about this, and I have seen some stuff online, and it's been years, that they had this attachment you could put on a pot and it would stir it for you. I think I didn't want to buy one of those, but I couldn't find it when I went and looked for it again. So I don't know if they went out of business or what the deal was. I guess some of the super smart people could like build their own and put a little whisk on here and then build a robot arm or something, but I'm not that guy. Although I do have friends whose kids are in robotics competition, so maybe I should contact them and see if they'll build me a robot that'll stir my caramel sauce. Alright, come on. Still not boiling. Again, you don't want to let it sit too much, because if you let it sit too much, you'll end up burning it, and that sucks. So it's kind of this weird balance of like, stop and let it, so you can see if it's boiling yet, versus let it sit and burn like crazy. So isn't this fun? Come on, baby. It's starting to bubble through. I'm going to call that good. So let's do 3 to 5 minutes. So I'm going to do 3 minutes. And then we'll see where we're at. Okay, so we've got our caramel sauce looking like caramel sauce. It definitely is that kind of tannish color of brown. Looking really good. And take it off of the heat there. And from here we're going to add our cream. We need a half a cup of heavy cream. And it says that it's going to boil vigorously, and sure enough, there it goes, boiling vigorously. So you need to mix that guy in there, and it's boiling vigorously, and even more vigorously when you stir it. I guess I can turn off the timer. Okay. That was a little bit past 3 minutes. It was about 4 minutes, so I'm not sure if it would have been better to wait. I don't know. We'll see. It looks good right now. So anyway, we've got this going. So we've got this, the cream added. Now we need to add xanthan gum, and we need to add a 1/4 teaspoon of xanthan gum. So we're going to do that real quick. 1/4 teaspoon, being not very much at all. This stuff's always kind of a pain because it's in these packets and you never need very much of it, but it's also kind of hard to measure. But we're going to give it a shot. Yep, that's all of that one. There's the other packet. I don't know why there were 2 open packets in there, but oh well. This is the part where Chad fails at opening a xanthan gum packet. Wow. Okay. That's a 1/4 teaspoon of xanthan gum. Need to stir that all in. Need to add 1/4 teaspoon of salt, which you all know is about that much. Okay, so now I got to put it back on the heat, and I need to get it to a boil again, and boil it for another minute. Is what it's saying. It's kind of funny because you do this stuff to mix it all up and everything, and then you end up adding water to water it down. So you're boiling it down and then adding water, which confuses me, but whatever. Okay, so it is boiling. So we want to do it for 1 more minute. And it froths up real good when you do this. Yeah, remember I was telling you about Johnny and his inability to listen to sound? This sound right here would drive him absolutely insane. So John, don't watch the video. I guess you probably turned it off already. Or didn't watch it in the first place. His dad's a dork. Because that's... my dad's job is to be a dork. Alrighty, so that's a minute. So now we let it sit. Go ahead and turn that off. We let it sit until it's cooled to lukewarm is what it says. And at that point we then add in our 2 tablespoons of water. So we're going to go ahead and let that cool down a little bit, and I'll be back in a second. See you then. So I'm not very good at waiting, so we're going to go ahead and do this. We're going to put 2 tablespoons of water in here. Tablespoons of water. 2. Alrighty. And we're going to mix that in. It says mix well. Obviously. You don't want watery in your stuff. So there we go. So that's the sauce, and supposedly you can keep this stuff in the refrigerator if you want to. In this case, we're going to use the whole thing for the Carmelitas, but you can use this as a regular sauce, and it's actually pretty simple. I mean, other than the having to whisk for 10 minutes straight, that kind of sucks. But it is what it is. So the way this rest of this bit works is we're going to take the base here. We're going to take an extra tablespoon of coconut flour. Make sure that I'm doing this right. Remaining tablespoon of coconut flour. So I'm going to dry this off. I really just had water in it. I don't want my coconut flour to get wet because it's super absorbent. Alright. So we're going to do 1 tablespoon of coconut flour. Add that to our mixture here. Okay. Because we want this to be drier and crumblier than the last batch. And because coconut flour is super, super absorbent, it definitely changes the texture of the stuff you're cooking with, which a lot of people really don't like coconut flour because of that. You cannot substitute coconut flour for regular flour. It straight up does not work. You have to use recipes that someone else, thankfully Carolyn in this case, has figured out how to make it work. So thanks, Carolyn. Okay, so here's the chunks. We've got this stuff here. We're breaking it up into small crumbs, it says. Basically, I'm just going to crumble this crap over the top of this other thing. So we've got this, and we want to put this in these chunks kind of over the top of this stuff. So we're kind of just setting it up so that it's not solid. And the idea, obviously, is to get the caramel sauce. We're going to drizzle that into the kind of the gaps left behind by us doing it this way instead of having it baked together like the bottom is. So you don't have to be super precise with this, obviously, which is good because I am anything if, wait, I'm going to say that wrong, so I'm not going to say it. I am not precise. How about that? I've never been the finesse guy. Ew. Another almond. Win. Okay. If you like almond joys, or almond flavored things in general, you absolutely should make this, because I can tell you already, just from eating these almonds that are coated in this stuff, that it's freaking delicious. Alright, so that's that. Now they want us to pour the caramel sauce over the crust and then put in the chocolate chips. And we're going to go ahead and do that right quick. It does call for, I believe, half a cup of chocolate chips. I'm just using sugar-free chocolate chips. And I'm not a huge chocolate chip guy, so I'm not going to put in nearly as much as what they're wanting me to. So I'm just going to put in some, for extra flavor, but I'm not going to go crazy with these. Because I'm not like I said, I'm not a huge chocolate guy. I like them alright, it's fine, but like that's too many on that one piece right We'll do it for interest, not for major flavor. Because I mean, come on, you got almonds in there. You don't need lots of chocolate. I know, it's a travesty. When I was a kid, I used to not even, you can ask my parents, I used to not even like chocolate at all. So, I don't know, I think it's because I got sick eating M&Ms one time at a youth event, but anyway, kids don't overeat. Alright, so here we go. Now we got this stuff there. Actually, no, we'll do that later. Alright, we'll do this now. So here's our caramel sauce. You can see the texture of it is like, or the texture of it's real smooth. The color of it's nice and tan, looking pretty good. Just kind of trying to make it a little bit even. You know, like I said, since I am not finesse man, this is not my thing, but hey. Alright. Let's get the rest of the sauce in here. Now that I know that it's even, I can just pour it in the middle and then it can run wherever it wants to. Alright. And I don't want to waste any of this because come on now. Doesn't that look delicious? Looks delicious to me. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle a little bit of coconut. Actually, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to sprinkle the coconut on at the end of the run here because we need to cook another 15 to 20 minutes and I will burn the crap out of that coconut if I do that. So, I'm going to go 15 minutes. And hey, it's cooled down enough for me to put my hands on it. So we're going to cook it for 15 minutes and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to put coconut on it at 15 minutes, let it cook another 5, and then we'll go from there. See you in a few. So I apparently can't read, which makes this even more fun. I guess I was supposed to pour the sauce on and then sprinkle the crumbles and then do the chocolate chips. So this is completely wrong. The good news is it still looks really good. The bad news is it's probably not going to adhere the way we really want. Oh well. That's the best part is when you eat this, then nobody knows. Except for all the people that are watching you on the internet. So this is the part where I'm doing something extra. I'm going to go ahead and just put a little bit extra coconut on there because, you know, I like coconut. I think it looks cool. So we're going to go ahead and sprinkle this all the way over here. Now it's not done cooking, obviously. We're going to put this back in the oven. This is a lot of coconut, but I like a lot of coconut, so. Alright. So there's our coconut. We're going to put this back in here for another 5 minutes. And then come back and check on it. We just dinged, so let's see where we're at. Oh yeah. It's smelling good. I don't know if you can see, but the coconut browned up nice. Obviously you wouldn't want to leave it in too much longer than that or it'd be black. So we're going to go ahead and just let it sit, let it cool off, and then we'll try it out once that's happened. Yeah, it smells awesome in here. Remove and let cool completely, so we're going to have to let that sit for a while because it's been, 325 degrees for a while now. So, see you soon. We've got our final Carmelitas, and they look really gooey, which is good, at least in my mind. So we're going to cut this up, and we're going to see what it tastes like. And I'm going to do it poorly, because I don't have any idea how I should actually cut these up. That's awesome. This is going to be more like soup. So, in retrospect, I believe that I should have gone ahead and not put in the extra butter and put the caramel sauce in between, because the caramel sauce on top is, I mean, this looks really good. Alright, let's see what it tastes like. I do like putting the coconut on top though. I think that was a good idea. The one good thing I did. One more even. That tastes really good. It reminds me a little bit of my grandma's coffee cake. It's not that sweet. It's just more kind of got that, well, obviously it's going to be buttery. That's delicious. So yes, in retrospect, probably should not have added the butter, the extra butter, and then probably should have done the bottom layer and then poured the caramel sauce on top of that and then sprinkled the top, because I don't know if you can see, but it's still kind of gooey. It's kind of got that pecan. Honestly, this is very much like a pecan pie, except it's almond. It's got some of that same texture and kind of that gooey, caramely nature in the middle. It tastes really good. Obviously, you're not going to be holding these in your hand because it's like more like a cake because it's gooey. But yeah, I definitely will be making this again. Next time I'll hopefully make it better. But hope you enjoyed it, and see you soon.